What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 15 of podcast. Going to be joined today by Ryan Smith of Purple Squirrel. Ryan boasts 12 years of boots on the ground brokerage experience. He now describes himself as a freight agent advocate with his company Purple Squirrel. They thoroughly vet both the broker and the agent to find a long-term match. Unlike typical recruiters, they have boots on the ground experience and give a crapness, excuse my French, to help both the agent and broker scale their business. But before we get into that, we're going to jump into the EF routing rates and lanes of the week information provided by EF routing. Hey, what's going on, man? You're muted.
And there I am.
Yeah, I should have test ran that myself. Could you hear me at all there?
Yeah, in the beginning. And then all of a sudden went silent, just looking at the lane rates.
Yeah, it was silent during the lane rates, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me try that over with you, then we can look at it together. Since I didn't dry run this and it's the first run through, and I guess when I took myself off, that also muted my audio. So we're gonna get into the top lanes of the week now that we can actually hear some audio coming out of my mic. Los Angeles looks hot, man. I mean, you got Los Angeles, the top 3 loads of the week provided by EF routing. You also got some flatbed Georgia to PA. You got some Charlotte. So it looks like, the South and Los Angeles heating up this week. Got the best loop for driving. So EF routing is a carrier tool, and they help with route planning for carriers. They also have load board integration with trucker tools and or truck stops, and other load boards in one spot. So for drive-in, they're going through the best loop. They have the best loop for flatbed. You see also a big thing with them is their total deadhead miles. I mean, on all those loads for the whole week, you have 200 deadhead, which, I mean, as a carrier, that's pretty wild. And also the top, best loop for reefer. But we'll improve on that segment going into next week since I messed it up. But let me jump into it with you, man. How did you come up with the name Purple Squirrel before we move forward?
Well, it actually was pretty easy. I applied for one name, which was going to be 1099 LLC, since we were kind of in the game of nothing but independent 1099, and it wasn't available. So I was outside, was on a hold with the state of Florida. Squirrel ran across my fence. My dogs always chase him, never catch them. And something hit me, and I said, "Man, Purple Squirrel, where have I heard that from?" I was like, "Oh, okay." So Purple Squirrel stands for basically the best candidate that fits the exact requirements that an employer or a partner is looking for. I guess they're also known as like unicorns or alphas, what have you. So I thought about Purple Squirrel. I said, you know what? I've had so many damn businesses, and they've pretty much all been very generic named, had the same color schemes and everything else. So I was like, I'll run with Purple Squirrel. And I thought from a marketing perspective, it's a little tongue in cheek, have a little bit of fun with it this time, not be so professionally boring, which is usually my forte. But, as you get older, it's like, what the hell do you lose? Let's just give it a try.
Oh, it'd be interesting. A lot of people are shying away from the super corporate things, and I mean, I saw when you typed over to me the whole giving a shitness, and I laughed a little bit, man, because I mean, me, like, as a person, I like to work with people that know how to crack a joke here and there. It's trucking. We don't work in the banking sector. This is not some type of office job. I mean, trucking is quite different in terms of day-to-day interactions. So
yeah, it's raw. I mean, I've worked in 3 different law firms and a couple of collection bureaus over over my years. In the beginning, my first career was in financial services, so it was really different.
Yeah, it's a lot more uptight. And I mean, I came into trucking, a main draw for me, like being here and staying here, was that you can joke around, you can talk to people. It's not the most serious office job. But it kind of segues us into the logistics thing. How did you get into logistics? Where was your first exposure to the industry?
Well, I had a marketing company, sold it, took off about 8 months, decided I need some structure. I need something to do. I found myself in my office. I can't turn on the TV before 5 o'clock. And this was back when like Craigslist was still something. And I was like, all right. I've seen all the positions out there. And I'm like, now there's really nothing to interest me as far as starting another business. So I really started looking at what can you do virtually. And I was like, okay, freight brokering. And I think I seen like Dennis Brown stuff back in the day. So I just started teaching myself, absorbing as much as I can, talking to a couple of my friends that have owned fleets over the years. And about 3 weeks into it, there's a guy that posted an ad for a sales rep. He was a Landstar agent. And Landstar is pretty much in my backyard. So there's a lot of what I call sleeper cells and all around me. And
I think I've never heard that sentence regarding Landstar, but it's funny. It's like,
oh man, if I'm in the backyard, I'm one of those walk and talk kind of guys. I'm like, look over my fence, make sure there's no one walking by. You never know when an agent may move in next door. But so yeah, he had an outstanding training program. Their safety culture was amazing. There was a true training center, and he was one of their top agents, and got to know him. And he said, hey man, we have a sub-agent program probably in about a year. And I said, well, that's cool. I think it was 70 some days. And on a Friday, he says, hey, you got a book of business. You want to be a sub-agent. You don't need to work here. And I was like, well, it's a 3-minute commute, but I'm used to working from home. So absolutely, let's do it. And
this guy said, yeah, I'm 3 minutes away, but I'd still rather stay in my house.
I mean, I was used to it. I mean, I was working from home for 6 years prior to that. And so I went from there, and then I was doing heavy haul in OD, and then ran across.
So that was your start. That was your introduction into logistics.
Yep.
Because I mean, I know they have a bad rap, but I think it's pretty undeserved in most cases because it's a huge company, right? Like you have some good people, some bad people in every company. And I mean, it's pretty agent focused. So it kind of just depends who you run into. I mean, I've hauled as a carrier for Landstar many times, never had issues. I've hauled for Landstar a couple times, had issues. I mean, that kind of goes for any large operation, at the end of the day.
They just have, they're saturated agents. I mean, I had agents that would try to back solicit me, steal from me,
Like your coworkers.
Yeah, all day, man. I mean, and I'd have my carriers calling me, and I'm like, dude, you're not supposed to be talking to my carriers, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah.
So where'd you go from Landstar? Where'd you end up after that?
I mentored a young guy. He was going to the expedited side. So I was like, man, this is the polar opposite of what I'm used to. And basically I mentored him on the heavy haul, and he taught me the expedited side a little bit. Became a sub-agent at LDI, and real quickly realized that, it wasn't my thing to work under somebody else. So got an assistant. Actually, one of my customers became my assistant. She got a call from a recruiter at R&R and joined them there for, I don't know, man, 8-9 years, something like that. And built a couple books, and then had some deaths in the family and COVID. And I was like, all right, got burned out, took a little bit off, and then decided to open a brokerage. That was not a smart decision. And, but I knew that I really liked the agent side of things, and I liked helping small businesses. And that's essentially what every agency is. So
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because I stepped into the brokerage arena. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of been around. People should know by now. I mean, I still get a lot of DMs asking me if I have trucks. Like, they think I'm still working as a carrier, so maybe I got to get on the marketing a little harder that I'm a broker now. But I can see, and through doing this podcast, through talking to a bunch of people, I can see how you can get burnt out from the agent side of things. After that prolonged of a period.
yeah,
And I mean, I can definitely see the appeal of being like, I've done it for a long time. I enjoyed it, but let me try to, step into something new. And like you said, helping small businesses, if it's a good feeling. Like that was my favorite part of being a carrier. That's now become actually my favorite part of being in the brokerages, that I'm dealing with carriers all day, and most of them are 1 to 5 truck fleets.
yep,
Most of them are, I'll call him. It'll be like the owner of the carrier. They have like 3 trucks. He's in the truck. He's driving one of them.
yep.
And
I've built websites for
the
them.
people I want to work with, man.
I've met some of my carriers. My wife was bartending when I first started, so she was gone at night. I'm out back making a pizza and just talking to carriers all night long, and made good friends. And I built a website for one of them back in the day. And I can still text him now. He'll respond. I'll ask him questions, and I mean, I still got carriers that call me and they're like, "Hey, where are you at? Can I get set up with you?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not even associated with
Just be like, bro, you want to be a freight broker?
right." Like, I know some good people, do some good programs, but yeah, it's fun, man. I mean, relationships have been touted. I think that keyword has just been abused in the last probably 2 years, more so than I've ever seen in this industry. It's like, I get it.
I mean, I think it's a buzzword, and I understand people wanting to tout relationships, but I don't know how many of the people touting that word around actually follow up on it behind closed doors. And I mean, I was a carrier for years. Whenever a broker called me and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have, consistent freight in this area. Can you do this load today?" And I'll keep calling you. And they're like, they don't call, like most of them don't follow up. And I mean, I understand carriers being skeptical of the word relationship from a broker because they've been burned before. And I get it. Like I was there. But
Yeah.
I mean, my approach to it nowadays is like, I mean, you can believe me or you cannot believe me, but I mean, I know deep down I'm doing the right things. And I mean, all you can do is try to be a part of that solution, right? So.
Yep, exactly. And the bad ones, they stick out. Everyone knows who they are, their names are what everyone talks about. But no one really talks about the good people. That's just expected. Integrity, is expected in this business.
But I mean, that's like such a cool sentence and like phrase and like mindset. Like it is expected, right? Like I think we see all the time on LinkedIn and stuff like that and social media where people are like, "Oh, we should celebrate the good people more." And it's like, well, what really is a good person for like having the load that they sold to you actually be that? Like, what is a good person? A good person is somebody just doing what they're like the job is supposed to be, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
don't really see like it is expected, right? Like, why am I going to be like, oh, this person is doing amazing business by just doing what they're actually supposed to be doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. Right?
Here's a trophy for being able to breathe.
Yeah, here's a trophy for doing the job title, like the job as it's supposed to be done. I mean, I don't know. We can talk for hours about that, but let's try to jump. Relationships, got to make them, got to be focused on them. Transactional business isn't going to hurt you in the long run. But talk is cheap. You got to get out there. You got to be doing these things, and that's kind of
it's just people doing business with other people. That's
yeah. That's what I always say about trucking. It's like if you just do what you say you're gonna do, whether you're a broker or a carrier or a shipper, it's like really simple stuff. Like when I was a carrier, my broker's like, "Hey, every Thursday you're gonna go to this shipper and you're gonna get loaded, and you're gonna deliver it every Friday at 8 a.m." And that's just what it was, right? Like it's not a complicated process when you just say it out loud slowly. So
it's just an opportunity to do exactly what you told them you were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be issues in trucking, but I like that mantra where it's like you're always going to have the problems. It's kind of how you deal with them, and I've sort of adopted that over the past, I'd say, 12 months, where I kind of let that be my philosophy. Where I used to be emotional, like, "Oh, this breakdown and this issue," and now it's more like, "Okay, guys, this is the situation. Like, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to push it forward?"
The problem is just a precursor to a solution, man. We get paid as a service provider to create solutions. That's it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, so
the
what are you
challenge.
guys doing now? Let's talk about Purple Squirrel. Let's talk about the recruiting stuff. I mean, what's Purple Squirrel's kind of elevator pitch? What are you guys, what are you up
We
to?
I've learned over the years when I was, I guess, harassed, I would say, by a lot of recruiters for different brokerages. Obviously, they're biased because they're staff. They represent one broker. They expect just because you have a book of business that they can definitely service you and let's sign you today. And that is definitely not the case. Everyone's book is unique. Every back end support is unique. Everyone's culture is unique. Um, so what I looked at is a lot of recruiters that didn't know anything about what it was that they were signing me for. And I said, you know what, this is what puts food on my table. This is what pays my sub agents. This is what, keeps my lights on. And I came up with a lot of questions and I would just email them. I said, hey, answer these, get them back to me. We'll see if it's a good fit. I had certain SOPs in my agency, and if it didn't fit, why even try to make it fit? I'm happy where I'm at. So out of that, I realized that there was a need for agents to really find an advocate more so than just a salesman recruiter. I don't see myself as a recruiter. I've never seen myself as a salesman. I've always kind of befriended everybody that I thought was decent, and if they're an asshole, hey, we can have fun with that too, right? There's a whole other military side to that one. We can have fun.
I mean, trucking, this industry, you kind of got to be a little bit on the asshole side, a little bit. You got to have that confidence to you to kind of make it in this business. But
so I seen an opportunity, and I said, hey, let me run with this for a little bit and see where I can help people. And from there, I'm like, okay, we're not going to focus so much on the W-2 side. It's just nothing, something that I don't have a lot of experience in. And agent program, that's what I know. So let's help agents, let's help sub agents, and let's help brokers grow. And how do we do that? We vet them. We don't just, oh, you got a book of business, you got a heartbeat, cool, sign here, I got a guy for you, come on down to Bill Bob's used car sales. None of that nonsense. Just take a true approach to it and care.
just to spend like some time talking to the guy or girl and like learning about them and who they are, right? Because I think like I'm not an expert. I'm gonna put a disclaimer that I'm not an expert in the recruiting field, obviously.
Neither am I.
But like I think the recruiting agencies in modern day logistics kind of get the same sort of stigma that dispatch services have on the carrier side, where they're like, oh, these recruiting companies kind of suck and this kind of stuff. But it's like a good dispatch service is great and a good recruiter is great, right? So there has to be a distinction. There has to be something different because, like you just said, you have 12 years experience, boots on the ground as an agent. And I mean, that's going to help you to understand what a good agent program looks like. That's going to help you to understand what a good agent looks like. And I mean, it's kind of like where I switched over from being a carrier to a broker. I've been a carrier, so I know how to talk to carriers.
Right.
And not to discredit and not to say if you've never been an agent, you can't be successful in agent recruiting. But at the same time, I'm going to say it a little bit, like it's definitely an advantage to have done the job that you're trying to help people get, right?
Well, you preach what you know. You're not just preaching from, I know a guy of a guy, and you're just making this garbage up because people are going to see through that, man. You might get away with, a couple, but in the end, it's your reputation. It's your personal brand. People are going to see through that. And either you care or you don't. And why waste people's time? This is this is people's careers, man. At the end of the day, we're all spending time to earn money to feed our families. So why lead someone down the wrong path if it's not a complete fit, but it benefits you more than somebody else? To me, if the deal is not fair for all parties, forget it. I mean, even like our fee structure, it's based on performance and it's based a hell of a lot on trust. A
I mean,
lot.
I would assume that there's a lot of recruiting agencies out there that, I mean, I've talked to some of them like with more of the offshoring, nearshoring side, not so much the US based stuff, but I feel like a lot of recruiting agencies, they try to shove, like a star into the circle. Like, that kids game where you have the
Square peg,
shapes.
round
Like,
hole.
yeah, like I feel like they're always trying to like just shove something into the wrong, it's not the right fit, and they're
Yep.
just trying to make their like commission on it or however that works. And
Yeah, it does.
I
That's
mean,
how essentially it works.
like you said, it's people are gonna see through that, and like I want to deal with people that know what they're selling me, right? Like if you've been an agent, I'm gonna trust you more because you know what you did, you know what I'm doing, and it always makes me laugh. Like when I used to do interviews in logistics companies, like carrier companies, and you would do like an interview with somebody from HR that's never done the job, and it's just like why am I even doing like this prelim interview? Like you don't know anything about the job. Like let me just talk to the manager, like who knows about the
Right.
job.
That's
I
part of
mean,
the reason why I left corporate America was that nonsense.
yeah, like you have like this interview with somebody that's never done the job and they can't answer any questions. Like it's literally a personality interview, which like I mean fair. Like it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, because I understand you gotta kind of get the riffraff out of there in the first
Mhm.
interview. But I mean I've always liked direct stuff. Like if I want to work somewhere, I want to talk to somebody that's done my job, that knows what's going on. And
Exactly. I mean, you look at it from a military perspective. Recruiters are all current military members. They've been there. They don't just hire them in as a sales rep and say, sign these hot bodies up. No, they're usually towards their end of their career, but they have boots on the ground experience. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, like that's a good analogy, right? Like you're signing people up to do something. It's a much better idea if you've already done it yourself. Like you're not just selling stuff into the wind, right?
I'd love to jump back in and sell freight. One of those. I'll do it one of these days, just to dust myself off and keep myself sharp.
Yeah, I mean that was the whole thing on the carrier side of things, like the past 1-2 years, where I would be doing an interview with a dispatcher, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I stepped out of dispatch, in 2021, looking to get back into it." And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, it's been a while, bro. I don't know if you know what you're coming back to at this point. So it's definitely good to like.
It's
That's the
changed.
thing. People out there are always like, well, I have 35 years experience in whatever part of the industry it is. And I'm like, yeah, but you haven't been active for 10 years. So, I mean, at a
Exactly.
certain point, you should probably familiarize yourself with how the market looks today and how the landscape looks today. Because, I mean, it's great you have experience. That's fantastic. But
If you don't
it's,
keep it up, though, you need continuing with it. That's just how it is. And it's like, yeah, I wrote mortgages in 2005 and 6. Do you think it's the same today? Absolutely not.
yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. Experience is great and all, but in an industry like this where each week, each month, each year can be drastically different from the next. I mean, it's always good to put yourself, dust yourself off. And like that was always when you had the manager, who was telling you how to book freight, but they didn't like they became a manager a long time ago, so they don't know what's happening today. I'd always be like, hey, like why don't you come make 5 phone calls and you tell me if that information is accurate anymore?
Right. I mean, a lot is definitely changed. A lot of it's a lot easier. A lot easier from a marketing perspective, from a data perspective. But then it's also a lot harder because you do have a lot more sharks in the pool these days.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing, the data stuff, because I mean I haven't been doing this for 20, 30 years, but I can only imagine how pricing tools looked, in 2005 versus pricing tools in today's market. So
I don't even know of any pricing tools when I first started. I'm sure there was something out there, but it was more of just right from the carrier. Hey, what's it going to take to move this load?
yeah, I'm just taking a couple of quotes and making an average number.
Yep, that's it.
But I mean, in today's market, it'd be funny to try to use that strategy because you have those guys that quote like 2,000 over posted on every shipment. Like that's just how the carrier operates.
Yep.
So I think if you called 10 carriers on the same lane, you would get like 10 completely different numbers these days.
I'll try to do heavy haul. I mean, some of that stuff was just nonsense, man. One guy be like, "Yeah, I need $200,000." This guy's like, "Well, 65 to 85," and you're sitting there going, "What number do I use?"
Yeah, so it's actually funny you mentioned that because I came across over like everything, every possible over that you can have in this industry. And I ended up getting with somebody that's been doing it a long time, two or three different people, and they made me understand the cost of that freight, you know. Like this is what it's going to cost the carrier out of their pocket to be legally allowed to move the load, you know.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting a bunch of quotes, but this always sticks in my head. There was one guy that basically wanted like $20,000 just to move the load, like in his pocket, clean after expenses, and it was like I don't know, 700 miles or something. And I just thought to myself, I was like, man, like, where did they come up with that number? You know?
Well, some of these guys, I mean, they're in gals for that matter. I've seen some remarkable drivers. One guy that I know in particular in Indiana, he can't leave his yard, literally his house, without permits.
Oh, he can't leave like the yard without permits.
He can't hit that asphalt with his truck unless he has permits.
Oh, geez.
I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, I know there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not going to pretend I know, but that's the beautiful thing about networking. And that's the beautiful thing about knowing people is that, you know, I can get on the phone with 2, 3 people I know that do that business and they do know what they're talking about. And if they're quoting me, I'm using fake numbers. I have no idea. This was a couple weeks back. But if they're telling me, you know, $12,000 is a fair rate, and then a guy's telling me $28,000 is a fair rate, I mean, I'm pretty sure those 3 people in the same ballpark, you know, are right, and the one guy asking for just insane amount of money is not on pitch. And I can respect the carrier quoting high. I can respect it. I just tell them, you know, like I respect the hustle. I just can't meet you there. But I mean,
there's bird dogs out there too for some of these guys with this equipment. They're just looking for brokers that don't know what they're doing, and they'll act like they're the carrier, and they're just the bird dog lead gen guy.
yeah.
Caught onto those, but I mean, in talking about continuing education and continuing experience, I wouldn't know what to do today if I was to touch a heavy haul quote. I would have to go through my literally like a Rolodex and call some of my old contacts. Hopefully, they're still alive. But I wouldn't even know where to start with the quoting on that because it's been so long.
Yeah, but I mean, let's wrap up the whole Purple Squirrel thing. I mean, how would you guys say you're different from the competition? Give us kind of that recap. You know, obviously, your boots on the ground experience to me as somebody outside of it, that's obviously a huge bonus. I mean, if I was coming into a recruiting situation, I would want to go with the person that's done the job before. That's just me personally.
I would say just the passion to actually care. These aren't just a resume. These aren't just people in general. These are people that want a better opportunity for their lives and their careers. And for us to be able to work with them, if they give us the opportunity to do that, I can sleep at night. I love helping other people. I mean, and it's not just a cliche. I mean, literally, if I could figure out a way to do a free soup kitchen, but have the best backyard steaks to make every day for free and give them away, I would, because that's my passion, really. Or mow grass like a Forrest Gump. But, how are we different? We're small. I don't ever plan on being large. It's not about the body count. It's about the quality. And what I found over the years with different agents that I've hired personally, that I've hired for others, most of them end up becoming a friendship.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
it's not just a transaction. And
that's like the thing. If you're passionate about what you do and you care, like I have drivers that still come out and see me, every summer for vacation because, I just cared. Like it wasn't a job to me. It wasn't a paycheck to me. They weren't just a number. They weren't just a numbered unit, a guy in a truck, like that's real people. These are real like humans with families. And even if they don't have families, even if they're fresh out of college, fresh out of university, like doesn't matter. Like they're people at the end of the day, right?
If they're fresh out of college, that gives you an opportunity to kind of lead them in the right direction for what you know and lend your experience to them and let them at least utilize that as a catalyst or a platform to jump off from as they move forward in their career too. You know, you'll find those people call you back years later, be like, "Oh, cool, thanks, man. Here's what I'm doing." Those conversations are amazing. I mean, that's what drives me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just, I mean, I know you, like, we have a past, you know, you helped us out on the first show, this and that. Like, every talk is cheap, you know, you can have, that's why I like this podcast. That's why I like that it's uniquely mine, because you can interview, you know, people and they'll come on and they'll say the same stuff. They'll be like, we're the best company, we're the best at this. And like, you can tell when people are just trying to give themselves off as like the best thing since sliced bread. And then you can tell when somebody just like genuinely enjoys what they do for a living, you know. I mean, I have a pretty good sense of that. And that's why I like this show. That's why I like having the chance to talk to people and, you know, get their stories and feel them out. And because it sucks to promote something and then you find out later on that that person was just kind of blowing smoke, and you've heard, you know, some rumors of people at work there and they're like, oh, that company's actually not how they portray themselves, you know. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I like about this show. It gives me that chance to sit down with people, talk to them, and it gives, you know, the people that come on the platform a chance to show, you know, the community, like, this is who I am. I like what I do. And you can always tell who's the corporate robot. You can always tell who's coming on here just to promote something, and they're coming on here. You know, luckily I vet my, you know, the people I bring on the show pretty well. And I've had, you know, some great people on here.
Absolutely.
But, you definitely, you can see the corporate kind of robots that come into some shows. And like, the funny thing is that I know some of the companies, especially when it's like Serbian based trucking companies, and they'll be like, we're the best. It's like, I know people that work there. Like, I don't know, man. Like,
you're a dumpster fire, son.
Yeah, that's what I like, you know,
it's
to
fun
talk to.
being that, knowing that, having that intel behind the scenes, especially now when, you know, with social media. It's like, just keep talking. Just keep talking, because that ego will always get you. But
Yeah,
it's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, you can dig yourself into a hole very quick. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I mean, we were talking, you know, DMs back and forth, like, you're opening your own thing, and I mean, I always liked you. Like, you're just always like a really chill dude. I was like, yo, let me go talk to this guy. Let me see, what is he doing. Let's get it out there. And I mean, you're one of those people that I wasn't worried to be like, oh, this guy's starting a company. Let's, you know, and it's the passion, like you said, that really does separate the, you know, kind of the corporations from the, that is kind of the true benefit of the smaller operations, because you're fully in control of your operation, and you don't have to make that decision where it's like, we're expanding rapidly, we don't have the ability to vet people the best we can. And then you know, when you start expanding too fast, the quality starts to suffer. And that's kind of,
not every successful business has to scale just to and leverage labor, especially these days. It doesn't, man. And why?
yeah, like, you can just stay in your lane, do what you love, keep it at a size that's manageable for you. Like, I think we're all sold that, like, that was the thing when I moved over here, was people started to show me, like, it's not all about me being a millionaire or a billionaire or having, you know, a Ferrari and a mansion. It's more like, do something you enjoy doing, do it the best you can, kind of thing. And like you said, you don't have to be this $1 billion company to be successful. Like, you just have to enjoy it and do your best at it. And
you can have those things. I mean, you can be financially well off without leveraging labor. You just got to be smart with how you do it. You know, live below your means and have a goal and get there. You know, I mean,
work on it, yeah.
If I can work on a dock in the Keys someday, that's the damn goal.
Yeah. I mean, working remote, that's the best. Like, I mean, you like work from home. I love work from home. I mean, you can see I'm sitting in my kitchen, which is also my office. And I love that, because if I want to make a quick sandwich or a steak or some eggs, I mean, it's a 5 minute, you know, it's right behind me there. So.
Exactly. I've done it for 17 years, man. I mean, thank you for the internet, because that's what made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's a tool, and companies definitely need to start getting with the times. And I think that whole um, caring about stuff needs to kind of change, where it's like, outsourcing and nearshoring is happening. And even if it's not happening, just the fact that you can sit, you know, on a dock in Florida fishing with your laptop and still have the same results as the guy that's sitting in some corporate office somewhere. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And the internet has definitely change the way the world works these days. So
The only time I wear a tie is to a funeral, man. Otherwise, forget it. That corporate noose is off.
yeah, I mean, I want to get into it with you. We've gone over Purple Squirrel. I love it. I like you, man. I hope you have great success with it, and I'll do everything I can to help you with that. But I want to get into some questions that came over to me from a friend of mine who is quite familiar. He's been through. He told me he's been through the recruiting process. Not naming any names. I didn't even ask him, to be honest, because I don't really like. It's not my place, man. He just told me I dealt with some recruiters. Here's some questions to ask this guy, and I'm gonna just kind of stick with it. So if any of these questions don't make sense to you, please let me know. But I looked them over; they make sense. So.
Shoot.
Let's start with this one. You had a recent post, I think it was today, maybe, about snakes in the grass. So, like, what kind of stories have you heard of brokers' contingency plans where they try to steal your book of business? I mean, how does that post? What's the story? What's behind that post? Yeah.
Several agreements that I've looked at over the years. Essentially, and it happened to me as well, that once you leave, usually they have something in that small ass fine print of, page 1, section 3.4, 8 and 9 quarters, somewhere down deep in there, where they just hope you don't see it. And it says, after 12 months, we can go after your customers.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, that's a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, isn't it?
Yeah. And you want me to become a partner. Why? Shallow. Do your own damn marketing. Get your own shippers.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that these agent program, the brokerage, the main company, has in the fine print, after 12 months, we're allowed to basically steal your book of business.
Some do.
Some obviously, it's like, of course, that wouldn't be in every company.
You see them in a lot, but it's hopefully changing. It just depends on the people behind the scenes.
So be aware, deal with good recruiting, deal with people that would find that for you. If you don't deal with recruiting, think about that yourself and look out for it for sure.
Or consult an attorney, man. It's going to save you a lot of headaches down the road potentially.
Yeah. Next question is going to be, how do you feel about non-competes? What's your stance there?
Non-competes started during the slavery.
That's it. Done. That's just your whole take on it.
That's it. Think about it. It started then, and they're still fighting it today.
Yeah. I mean, when you put it out like that, there's not much you can really do. But this is the follow-up to that conversation, and I can't remember who told me this, but so I've never had to deal with non-competes, thank God. I wouldn't want to be a part of it. But this was the argument that it didn't change my opinion. I still think it's not a good business practice. But this is basically the argument, So some say non-competes are reasonable for new people in exchange for training them in a skill set. You had zero knowledge of being a broker. You came into my company. You learned everything from us. And 6 months down the road, you left to get a better salary. Okay. That's the argument. Not that I'm saying I agree with it. But what do you think about that argument?
From a business owner's perspective, yes, they put in a financial investment. But in exchange, that an employee put in their time, which is also a valuable commodity. So why do they have to still have control over that employee after the fact when it was a fair trade of money and time? And if you also think about it in the larger scheme of things, their competition would love to hire that person that they trained, and they would love to hire the competition's person that they changed or trained rather. So if you look at it, it could be reciprocal and everyone wins. I still look at it as like, that's my slave and he ain't working for you.
I mean, this is the way that I kind of look at it. It's like, so that situation happened to me one time throughout, my career in logistics, where I learned some stuff and then I left once I learned some stuff. And the reason for that was the company culture, but who cares? That's just, you can forget it, but that's not the point. The point is if you take care of your employees and mainly take care of them financially, they are not going to leave your organization. Exactly. So if you're worried about that employee taking the training from you and taking the knowledge from you and then going somewhere else, 99.99 continuing amount of nines, it's going to be a financial decision. This is not going to be a company culture thing for the most part. This is not going to be because the water in the water cooler is not cold enough. This is going to be because you paid them an entry-level salary. They excelled at their job. They're good at what they do. And now they're worth more, and you didn't want to pay them more. That's my take on it.
They want to move up. They don't want to stay stagnant. I mean, just because you get married doesn't mean you can't get divorced, right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing in companies. I think it's like a lot of companies will be like, oh, well, you're eligible for your first raise after 90 days, 120 days.
Right.
And it's like, I learned faster. I'm worth more now. Like, pay me now, you know? And I think it's like the whole pizza parties thing. Man, just pay your employees. You won't have to worry about them leaving. That's my take on it.
I mean, it's nonsense, and hopefully it does eventually disappear. I mean, I can see some NSAs and how they're valid, things of that nature, but whatever, man.
Non-competes are bad. I don't like them. Let's move on from that.
I agree.
Do you have any success stories where you changed somebody's life? And a caveat to that is, have you interacted with anybody from the infamous 3-letter company?
3-letter company? No.
No, never came in across those people.
I mean, I've come across them.
Well, yeah.
And I thought, in the beginning it would be great because they were trained and they were seasoned. But I also realized that they needed their hands held. On an independent side, they just weren't ready for it. And if they were, they already started their own brokers somewhere in the Midwest. So the ones that were there that left for whatever reason, or no, they didn't really work out.
So then that brings me into the start of that question. What would you say was your biggest kind of success story in this space, in the recruiting area?
In the recruitment area? Well, since we're, a month into it?
No. No, it's not like
let me count on my fingers.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really. No, you caught me there. I mean, like I said, he prepared these questions. It was more like a general thing, man.
Recruiting.
Have you placed agent before in your career in this sector? Not this specific company.
I have. And I consider him a friend, and it's fun. It's absolutely fun to hear what he's doing, where he's going, different customers that he's able to secure in this market.
Yeah, so I actually messed up and I wasn't reading the comments because I left it somewhere in the brand page. We got this, but then the follow-up to this is that we actually did say it, which is that basically, like just pay people more money and they won't leave your company. So that's like the summary of this comment. And she even comes back and says, like, didn't type fast enough, you guys covered it. So,
keep up.
Yeah, just to any employer, like, just pay people well. Not going to be mad, not going to leave. Be fair to people. They're going to be fair to you.
I guess my thing is sometimes I tend to give the wrong people an opportunity because I see something in them, and I'm like, okay, if they really want to help themselves, I'll help them, hands down. I'll give them everything I can. And some just don't work out.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're like me. You see the potential in people, and maybe those people, and like you take a shot on them, and then they just don't like make it to where you think they could be or where they should be. And it's a tough feeling, man. You can see that like future for somebody, and it's up to them. I mean, all you can do is open the door. I mean, the candidate has to walk through it. So
it used to be upsetting, but then the ones that grabbed it and then just propelled themselves, that makes up for all of it.
Yeah, it's the best feeling in the world, man.
There's a couple of them out there just recently. I mean, you know a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, my football coach said that to me when I was a kid. I mean, not a kid, in high school. He was always like, "Man, you could be one of the best, like, discus throwers. You could be one of the best football players." And me being young and stupid, I just kind of like didn't focus on it hard. And like looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, man, I put in zero effort. It was like all natural ability, no effort was put into that. And I mean, it was a good lesson for me in business because I deal with a lot of like hiring, and I used to deal with a lot of hiring, and I mean, you can see that potential in people, and it's just really, it's up to them at that point, right? So,
You got to give them the right tools, the right resources, the right platform, and I think they run with it. I mean, I did that personally. I did not like school, and then I just decided to enlist in the military early, came back and graduated valedictorian. So I was like, this is too easy. I want something beyond this right now, so I just got to get this out of the way. Passion
I mean,
driven.
I loved school if I loved it. Like I loved English class, like the certain stuff. Like I liked things if I liked them, and if I
Right.
didn't like them, I put in no
Yep.
effort.
Exactly. I was the same way.
Yeah, like
I was
like
up there doing the speech, and
90.
everybody's like, damn.
Yeah, like I was getting 90s in English class, like failing. I failed math almost every year I was in high school. Like once they started putting in the letters, I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore, bro. This is not for me. Like,
Nice.
yo,
The only
honestly,
word
bro,
we got to pay attention to now is just POD.
yeah, bro. I passed first year of math in high school, and then I failed the last 3 years because I didn't care. Like,
Yeah.
when was that gonna affect me? I had no plans in my life to use any of that. Like, I knew going into that, like they started teaching it to me. I was like, man, I'm very confident I'm not gonna come across this in my basic life. And to like, truth be told, how much math are you doing, man? Like simple math is like 2,000 plus 1,000, like
Right.
1,200 plus 1,800, like.
Now
Divide
we're,
that by 3, bro.
now we're just grabbing our phone anyways and figuring out rate per mile. And yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks good to me, bro. But I got this question. I mean, maybe this is just out of my league. Maybe I don't understand it. But so my friend Sean, he made this question for you. Um, from his time building an agent program, how do you balance placing folks who interview well but can't handle working from home?
If you can't work from home, then kick rocks. I mean, we're not hiring children here. We're hiring adults.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
know, I mean, you're going to know within the first couple of days. If an agent says they have a book of business and it's day 3, and they're not asking you to send a credit app out on their behalf to their customers, they don't have a book of business. And if they don't have a book of business, they're probably not self-motivated. They're not going to work out anyways, no matter if they're from home or being babysat in an office somewhere.
Yeah. I'm firmly a believer in that working from home is great, but certain people, like you said, they need that constant supervision. And those are the type of people that aren't self-motivated anyways. Like those are the type of people that belong in the office. And I mean, if you can't manage your own stuff, an agent model is not for you for sure. So
Absolutely, 100% agree.
here's the next one. What is a healthy like runway? How long, should a new hire kind of be given to fall into place in a new operation?
I think there's 2 parts to that question, really, because the agent already knows their customers. The broker is there to support their book. So they have to really learn the ins and outs of each other, especially if they're learning a new tech stack altogether. Usually within about 60 days, I would say you're going to see people working together, understanding each other. You're going to start to see strengths and weaknesses. Within the first couple payroll cycles, you're going to see problems that are going to arise with different characters and different ways that people run their book of business. I mean, I got some shit in my head, man, but it's
We'll get to the crazy stories at the end, and we're getting pretty close to there. So just keep it fresh.
Well, I can't name names.
But yeah, I mean, 60 days, man. Like if you asked me, I mean, like this is not regarding the agent program model. This is just regarding like dispatchers.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're not figuring it out within like 15 to 30 days, like even like 15 days to me, like if you say you have experience dispatching trucks and you sit down in my office and you're struggling, I mean, I don't have a lot of patience for that kind of stuff. It's like, it's pretty generic, right? Like you use the same map system and you use the same load board system.
Right. I was going towards more of like 60 days for everything to kind of be smooth.
Oh yeah, no, the agent thing is completely different. I mean, managing a book of business, managing invoices, what like you said, the tech stack, like that's a huge part of it, So, I mean, I think for the agent program, 60 days is, that's a good enough time. If you guys are still bumping heads and skipping some parts and you're still having kind of some friction after 60 days, then might not be a great fit.
Yep. That's where your recruiter needs to vet both their client and the agent.
Yeah, I mean, so this kind of follows up on that question. As a new hire into an operation, what can the agent slash broker do to like accelerate their successful placement?
Be ready. Know your numbers. Have all of your customer credit information ready to rock and roll. Know the EINs, know the billing, know the contacts, know all of the information your new broker is going to need for their credit application. The faster you can get it out, the faster you can get it back, the faster you can get lines of credit set up, and there's less friction with you moving forward with your shipper from last week's broker to this week's broker.
Yeah.
And obviously letting your clients
know.
Yeah, just having your stuff together, because there's a lot of people that don't, man. I mean, it's something. I mean,
it's funny in trucking how many things are just it sounds funny saying them out loud, but in the day-to-day operations, these things are problems.
Yeah.
I mean,
even from an agent perspective, you ask them their numbers and they're always going to tell you something. It's like, that's great, prove it. Oh, I don't know where I can get that information. I'm like, you own it. You have a TMS, right? I mean, I hope so, because otherwise you're not an agent. You go here and you put in these 2 dates and you hit run report. That's what I need to see. Or if for some reason you no longer have access to the TMS, just show me your last year's tax return, man. Simple.
Yeah, close
enough.
Have it ready. Be ready. Be organized. This is the most fundamental things in life. Not trucking. That's just the basic human living condition, man, for being an adult.
You ready to rock? You ready to roll?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty solid. We kind of touched on it a little bit. So brokers kind of lose parts of their book every time they move. What can a broker do to prep their book of business for the transition?
Let them know where they're going. If they think they have a solid fit with a new broker, let your clients know, hey, there may be a little bit of a disruption while I phase out of this brokerage into this new brokerage. Losing books of business, I don't know who started repeating that. Personally, I've never had it. I've never had a client say, well, hell no, you're just because your email address is going to change and the invoice is going to change, I'm not going to work with you. Well, then if that's the case, they weren't really clients or shippers, or customers rather. So I laugh when I see that shit.
Who keeps repeating this shit? No, it's funny to me because one of my good friends, Darren, he's been a broker for 15 years, and I had him on my show once, and we were discussing brokers being scared to tell their customer of problems, and he was like, "Man, if the customer is going to take all your freight away because you had one problem, you're going to take all your freight away anyways, dude. That was always going to be the case." So.
And you didn't have the relationship. Right.
Yeah, we didn't have that relationship with them. I mean, yeah, it's that echo thing. Who started repeating this shit? Is it even happening to people? Where does it keep happening? Maybe those were just the customers that were never gonna be, serious with you anyways. Like you said, what's the difference, man? An email address, a phone number, maybe. I mean,
that's it.
It's really all it is. So. All right, and finally, to wrap it up, this is the final question as far as this segment of serious stuff goes. So what kind of folks are you looking to meet? Let us know, who are you trying to deal with? Who are you looking for out there? Who do you want to, help, place? And what's your target kind of prospect look like,
Target prospect, both broker and agent. I can personally tell you what I would want as a broker, the perfect broker, but that's me being biased and just learning over the time. And there's a lot of details to that. Really an agent that has a verifiable book of business, that has experience, that wants to grow, and may need some more support growing. There's multiple ways to being able to help them grow. And someone that wants a partner. There's a lot of different reasons why an agent will leave a brokerage. And they have to be ready for it. So I guess really our intention is just putting ourselves out there, being known, and being willing to have a conversation at any time when that agent or sub agent is ready to have a conversation. That's it. Because from there we can find out the real reason why they want to leave wherever they're currently at or what they want to do. And we can talk with our broker clients and see if there's a fit, even if it may not be so much in 1099, it could be a W-2 position or vice versa. Yeah, we just want to have those conversations, really, and just see what comes up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to say, like, who do I want to talk to? Because you can tick all the boxes on paper. You could have the perfect candidate on paper, and then they could be the worst person you've ever talked to in your entire life the minute they answer the phone.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you could find a squirrel, right? You could find a purple squirrel, but they may clash personality wise with that brokerage.
A purple squirrel. That's funny, man. Like, so here's like a quick side story just to end this on like a funny note. So when I was a kid, like I asked my mom, where does chocolate milk come from? You know, and every time I hear purple animal, I think of this story. So like we were kids, we asked my mom, we were like 4 years old, like, where does chocolate milk come from? Does it come from the black and white cows or the brown, or does it come from like the brown cows, you know? And she's like, oh, like chocolate milk comes from purple cows in France. And like I believed that shit until I was like way too old to be believing that. And
I always thought lions were female and tigers were always males.
Okay. All right, that's fair. We both got it. A side note to that is there's a guy that I know, he's like in his 50s, and he was telling me that eggs are like a dairy product. Like we were really hungover, and I was like, "Yo, you want eggs?" He goes, "No, I shouldn't have eggs." I'm like, you know, it doesn't mix well with being hungover. Like I can't have dairy, and I was like, "What does that have to do with eggs, bro?" He's like, "Oh, it's a dairy product." And I'm like, "Bro, you're like in your 50s. There's Google. You just could have Googled that, bro. Like, this isn't the 90s. This isn't early 2000s. You have Google, bro. Like just look it up."
The things you remember when you were a kid, man. I mean, it's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting into the closing stages now. Yeah. What is your craziest logistics story from anywhere, any possibility, anywhere, from any of your time in the logistics industry?
That's a hard one, man. There's been some fun ones.
I mean, you can tell your worst one. You can tell your funniest one. You can, you know, just one story that kind of sticks out to you.
Funniest one was like 30,000 pounds of bikinis from Mexico. You know, I used to track all the freight because it used to get me so excited. Like, oh, what are we moving today? And then obviously it becomes just freight, right? And found out there were bikinis. I'm like, man, that's a lot of damn bikinis, man. You know, but
I mean, I'll follow up on that one with you because this always comes to my mind. So I remember booking a load of condoms, and the funny part of that, like that was already kind of funny. Like when I asked the broker, I'm like, "What's the commodity?" And they were like, "Oh, it's condoms," and I was like, "Damn, that's already funny." You know? And then it clicked to me. Like I looked back at my maps, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this is getting delivered to Las Vegas. Like that's way more funny, dude."
Oh yeah,
you know, it's just way more funny.
Kind of party going on with 10,000 pounds of condoms.
No, it was like a full truckload, dude. It's like 40,000, like full truckload of condoms, dude. Yeah, full maximum, like heavy load, like, and that's not even
no pun intended, right?
Yeah, dude, that's not the end of the fucking story, bro. When I get to Las Vegas, you would never believe the commodity that I haul out of there, dude. And it's right after, so I unload this full trailer of condoms to Las Vegas. I kid you not, bro. I leave Las Vegas with a full truckload of lubricant, like pleasure lubricant. You know, like you can't make it up, bro. And I remember laughing so hard in my office, and somebody like was like, "Yo, like calm down, like it's not that funny." And then I told them after I hung up what the story was. It's so funny, dude. Like, I mean, it
That's
writes
like a sick joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, dude.
That's almost like a sick joke. That's funny.
Yeah, bikinis, condoms, lubricant. Like that's what I love about trucking. It's always something new. It's always gonna like I hauled something to deliver to Comic-Con before. I hauled like a power only load for Notre Dame during March Madness. Like I love that part of it. You know, it's really fun. So
I did power. I love power only. That was a fun niche. That was a real fun niche.
yeah, I spent about a year and a bit, a little bit more than a year just power only, man. It was fun. But
I did a lot of stuff out of Indiana for that.
I'm gonna get you with this question. I might start taking this question out of future shows because I've only done it once and it didn't go very well. But it's funny when you think about it though. So what's your favorite joke?
My favorite joke?
Yeah, you have a favorite joke?
It's not clean. It's not clean, brother.
Yeah, that's what I kept trying to tell my partner about this. Like, I told him like, none of these jokes that people are gonna think of are gonna be like family friendly right away. I don't think. So.
Yeah, it's not. And it's one that my grandpa used to tell me. I don't know why I always remember it, but
I mean, if it's not safe, this is live, bro. I mean, I can edit it out of post, but I can't take it back once it's said. I mean, it's your discretion on that one, dude.
I heard a good one the other day too, but
see, you can't think about it, right? I can't think about a joke. I can't think about one joke ever. Like I'll never think of it.
It was my wife laughs at my jokes, so I think I'm funny.
yeah, but I don't. This question is hard, man, because people like it's 2024. You don't just walk down the street telling jokes anymore. Like this isn't like. Like we're not comedians. We're not walking around telling each other jokes all day.
You're most likely reciting a meme or reciting something you've seen on YouTube these days.
Yeah, you're sending the jokes these days, right? You're not telling the jokes anymore.
I don't know. The one I do remember is not clean, so I just
let's just, bro. I might just keep that in because it's hilarious. Because eventually somebody will have a joke that's just sitting in there. It'll be funny.
Well, next time we'll be prepared.
Yeah, you'll come back with a joke. But I mean, that's it, man. That's all from me, except for the last moment. And I think you know what's coming. It's chicken wing choices, man.
That's a good one.
With the segment?
A little bit. I've seen it. I've seen the banter back and forth. I would say what I found is naked, grilled with some kind of buffalo sauce. Now, mind you, my wife worked at a place that has 365 different types of sauce. So if it's spicy, I'm on it. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing with this chicken wing thing because there's those places now that have like 400 sauces, right? So it's not like but okay, we got to go through the generic one so we have the segment of it. Drums or flats?
If I had to pick, I would say flats.
Okay. Ranch or blue cheese? That's your only two options.
Midwest ketchup all day long. Ranch, man.
Not like Midwest ketchup.
That's what it's called, man. I put that shit on everything.
Yeah, I never heard that. That's good.
I put it on pizza.
Breaded or non-breaded?
Breaded.
Breaded, yeah, okay. Bro, this guy said Midwest ketchup. Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's good, man. That's good. I mean, thanks for coming on, bro. Anything? Did we miss anything? Have we represented the Purple Squirrel in its best form?
As far as it knows what it is for the last 30 days. It's still an infant. But, yeah, man, I appreciate it. It was good times.
Yeah, man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate learning, the Purple Squirrel thing. I'll add Purple Squirrel to my vocabulary of purple animals along with the chocolate milk cow. And, I mean, it was a good time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate it. Take care.
It's episode 15 of podcast. I kind of messed up my segment from EF routing at the start. I managed to take myself off and not have the audio included. So I'm going to run through it now so we have it at the end of the show. But in the future, it'll be at the start of the show. So all of this data comes from EF routing. This is the top hulls of the week, of last week, ending on this week. So you got reefer runs out of Los Angeles coming in at 2.3 to 2.6 on the high end, going to Illinois and Texas. You've got dry van at number 3 also coming out of Los Angeles. So I'm assuming Los Angeles is going to be hot this week or last week. Flatbed freight out of Macon, Georgia, 2.17 on the high end. Got some dry van freight from Charlotte to New Jersey. You got another Charlotte to New Jersey for flatbed. So that's EF Routing's top lanes of last week up until today. Now, this is the cool thing with EF Routing. They're a carrier routing tool as well as the load board tool. They're like a carrier tool in more ways than one. But this is their recommended best route for a dry van. And these are all loads. So you would see this in the platform. you would see this loop for dry vans. It would recommend you, hey, if you're starting out in San Antonio, you should head over to Houston. Once you're in Houston, this is your next best load, and it'll make you a full route Monday to Friday for your truck. And that's the thing. You don't have to book all of these loads. This is just a suggestion. It shows, the loads per day coming out. Once you get to where you're going, the loads per day, coming out of the destination. And this is their, best route plan for a dry van and their best route plan for a flatbed. You can see there, the cool thing with them is the total deadhead miles on these loops is 200, 205, 210. I mean, the deadhead is just minimal. That saves carriers money and time. And to wrap it up, you have the best loop for a reefer. Again, all of this data is provided by EF Routing. This is all hauled freight. This is confirmed freight. This is not speculation. This is loads that have been put on a truck and delivered. So big shout out to EF Routing. And that's it for today's episode.